guest with me today that we are trying to get some of her organization here in Ohio. She is Moms for Liberty. Her name is Mirna Eads. She's been doing a tremendous amount of work. I kind of throw her out everywhere we go. She is standing up for our children in our school system. She's taking pornography books off the shelves in our libraries. She's doing a lot. So let's welcome Mirna.
Thank you all. So like Tammy said, my name is Mirna Eads and I am the Campbell County chapter chair of Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty started in January of 2021. We have to date 275 plus chapters in 43 states. So we are growing very fast. There's a total of 3,130 counties throughout the United States. And our goal is to open up a chapter in each. And if you think about, even if each chapter only has 10 members, that's a lot of parents that are getting involved. But we have well over, I think, 150,000 members in our grassroots organization. We're growing every single day. In Kentucky, we have Campbell County, Boone County, we're getting ready to start Kenton County and Jefferson County. So only 4 counties in 120, or out of 120. Here in Ohio, I think we were talking earlier, and you guys have 87 counties, and you have 9 Moms for Liberty, and it sounds like one might be starting up here soon, so that would be great. So, Moms for Liberty, we are moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandparents, anyone that cares about the education of our kids. Somebody told me a couple weeks ago, your group is very exclusive. And I said, why do you say that? Because you're only moms. No, we're not. Just because it's called Moms for Liberty, because it was started by moms. But we accept just about everyone. And we are nonpartisan. We try not to get political, but most of us are conservative. We're not just Republican. There are Democrats. There are independents. There are Green Party. There are people who voted for Biden. There are people who voted for Hillary and Obama that are in our group just as much as Trump supporters and all the other Republican candidates. So we are very diverse, even though people think that we are not. We are very inclusive. We have gay couples that are part of Moms for Liberty that are fighting for the education of kids. So it's not just limited to one or none. Our mission is Moms for Liberty is dedicated to fighting for the survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. Mostly we show up to school board meetings to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. So what we're fighting for in Kentucky is probably the same stuff that you're fighting here in Ohio. Pornographic books in schools. In my county alone, Campbell County schools, of the 22 books that I challenged, and I say challenged and it's capitalized here because if you talk to somebody out there, they're going to say Moms for Liberty likes to ban books. We don't ban books. The Nazis ban books. We're just taking the pornographic books out of school libraries. Doesn't mean that they're not in public libraries. Okay? That can stay there all day long. I don't care. But in our taxpayer-funded schools, these books should not be there.
Now, Mirna opened up, did a Boone County chapter recently. How long ago was that?
January.
In January, they did a Boone County chapter in Boone County, Kentucky. And I happened to be there. My son is biracial. She had people show up there calling us Nazis, calling us
White
supremacists. I mean, they were agitators for a reason. They show up purposely. They do TikTok videos on her all day long. She's harassed just like election integrity. So I just wanted to put that out there. Sorry.
It's funny because the next morning after that meeting, my phone was blowing up, and I'm like, what is going on? And Moms for Liberty National was calling me and go, oh my gosh, you broke TikTok. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, you went viral. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
They call her Mirna Ears. They've even nicknamed her Mirna Ears. That's how bad it's gotten. They nickname her everything in the book.
Yeah.
It's just a tax to try to, stop what she's doing.
And with the books that I've gotten removed from Campbell County schools, they say that I have this magic wand and I can just get them removed without prior approval from the school board, which if I had that much power, there'd be more than 3 books. But they call me Mafia Mirna because they think I have this hold over Campbell County. I don't.
She's just doing her job. She's there for the target.
This binder I put together and I took it down to Frankfurt, our state capital, and gave it to several of our legislators and senators. These are just the books that I have found in Campbell County schools. Some of the schools are a lot worse than that. And I'll pass this around. You're more than welcome to look at it. But I will say there is some graphic content in here. But it's almost like I say that you have to kind of see it to believe it, because so many parents are like, that's not in our schools. Yeah, it is. A lot of the books are graphic novels because our children can no longer read. Most of them's at a 3rd, 4th grade level. And that was by design. So we've got to fight and we've got to fix that. Some of the books, as you can see, the pictures just kind of go on, but they're very graphic. They're very inappropriate for kids of our age, or of all ages, I think. What's okay for a 12th grader is definitely not okay for a 9th grader. Pass that around. I also put up there on the table, these are copies. This is a book called Assassination Classroom. It is rated a 3 out of 5. 5 is extremely inappropriate for kids. So a 3 is like, not that bad. To Kill a Mockingbird is at a 2. So, which we're not trying to get that work, we just have a whole list of books just to compare and contrast the ratings. The Assassination Classroom is 21 volumes of the books. This is one of the pictures on it. It shows a bunch of kids with AR-15s, locks, rifles, shotguns. There's all problems with that. And then you have books like this that's showing the kids exactly what to do with, this is a teacher with a smile on his face. Like, haha, this is funny, And then there's also some, because it's anime, how anime.
Can you make sure you hold it steady for a moment so I can
Okay.
get a picture of it?
Okay. But anime is a big thing with our kids, and that's what the author of Assassination Classroom is done. So there's a lot of graphic of girls' breasts in here, things that they're doing. So just pick up a copy of this. You can go to destinydiscover.com. You type in your state and your school, and you can see what books are in there. There's a whole list of books.
So they're associating pleasure, murder,
Exactly.
pleasure, murder.
Exactly.
Just
Yeah.
like your show.
Is there a way that they can challenge their books right now?
Yes.
Form?
So if you find, or if you know of a book, you can go to ratedbooks.com, and they'll have just a variety of books. And you basically pick a title, go check to see if it's in your school. It is tedious work to do. I can email a list of the books, and I can get it to Tammy, and Tammy can get it out to you all if you want to, that's kind of the speed version. The website is called ratedbooks.com. And
Do you have a handout for all these little websites?
No.
She can send it to
I
me.
mean,
and
I do
I
in
can
my
send
book,
it over
but
to you.
I didn't bring a whole lot of stuff.
I'll send it over to you, Scott. She can get it to me.
I mean, that way I can put in the description of the video. That way people can just go to the description and find
Yeah,
all the
she'll
stuff.
get it to me.
So ratedbooks.com, there's a section called Browse Books, and it has just a list of the top books that are showing up in schools that are rated, 5, level 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then you just check and see if those books are in your school, and you go to destinydiscover.com. And then then you type in your state, your school name, and you can type in the title of the book or the author and see if those books are in fact in your schools. And then to challenge them, you just simply, in Kentucky, through the KDE, Kentucky Department of Education, there's a form. It's not easy to get to. They really hide this stuff. But it's called a challenged book form. And you fill that out. They ask, did you read the book? And you submit it to the principal. The principal then forms a committee with the librarian. It's usually a librarian, principal, a teacher, a parent, maybe a student. And they sit down and they read the book and they determine, does it need to be removed? Does it need parental consent, or are we going to keep the book? So it's a long process. So we challenged, of the 22 books, 8 books have now been removed, 9 are now parental notification, and they're finishing up the remainder of the books. Senate Bill 5, we just got passed. That addressed any content that is harmful to minors, and it gives parents a pathway to challenge those materials and guidelines on how schools must act. We have a pornography clause in our laws in Kentucky, which is KRS 531, which describes pornography. There's an exception clause. 531.070 says that if it's used for educational purposes, it's allowed. That's what we're trying to get at. And what we have found is that some of these books are teaching second graders how to give blowjobs. They're teaching them about anal sex, oral sex, sex between two men, sex between an adult and a child. There is a book out there called Blankets, and it shows the babysitter taking the kid by their hand. It's a graphic novel. Taking the kid by the hand into another room. They're in there for a long time. The little brother's sitting on the couch going, gosh, what's taking so long? They must have a lot of secrets to tell. And the little boy comes out and he's all smiles because the babysitter pleasured him, if you will. And then she takes the other little brother behind the doors. So this is not appropriate for any age level to be reading about that kind of stuff. Critical race theory and DEI. They keep changing the names of these programs, and they do it purposefully to keep us running like a dog chasing our tail. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then SEL is social emotional learning. Basically, you will hear from the left that critical race theory and DEI and social emotional learning is a master's level course and is not being taught in our elementary schools. I can tell you that it is. The crux of social emotional learning is they're teaching these kids, they're teaching them racism, they're teaching them how to accept others and be more tolerant. Otherwise they're transphobic, homophobic, etc. Basically, an example of social emotional learning is if Johnny over here comes and pulls my hair and I'm mad at him, okay? Social emotional learning says I'm mad at Johnny because I'm a feminist and I'm against Johnny because he's a male. If Johnny was black, I'm mad at him because I'm racist. If Johnny identified as gay, then I'm a homophobe because I'm mad at Johnny. Why can't I just be mad at Johnny because he pulled my hair?
And he hurt you.
Like, plain and simple. But that's not what social emotional learning is teaching us. And then Senate Bill 150 is the protected parental rights. So a lot of schools, a lot of elementary schools are having their children keep secrets from the parents. So if a child wants to identify, say it's a girl, and she decides that her pronouns are he, him, the teacher is now obligated to keep that from the parents. And so we went into our legislative session, and that is no longer, it got passed, which is going to get challenged in our Supreme Court, but hopefully our Supreme Court will overturn it. But children cannot ask teachers to keep those secrets from parents any longer. It also stopped the use of pronouns in schools, gender-specified bathroom use, as well as prohibit sexual education with regards to gender identity and sexual acts being taught. The left is going crazy over this because they're saying that, one, they call themselves a majority, but two, they're also saying you're being transphobic, you're being homophobic, you can't do this. And it's like, you're the 1%, okay? I don't care, most of us in this room would agree, I don't care how you identify, okay? Just, can you do your job? Can you go to school and learn, sit in the classroom and behave yourself and not act like a dog or a cat? Not, stand up in class when the teacher uses your wrong pronoun and throw a protest, because, I've got to do this or I've got to do that.
What are the cat and the dog people call them?
They're called furries.
Yeah, furry. With litter boxes.
Yes. So thankfully, Senate Bill 150 has stopped that for now until it goes to the Supreme Court, and I'm sure our Supreme Court will overturn it. So Moms for Liberty, how we fight, we hold leaders accountable. So our leaders, not only are our legislators, and I'm constantly writing emails, calling them. I work with other grassroots organizations, No Left Turn, as well as Parents Defending Education, Commonwealth Education Opportunities. There's a number of different groups that we all kind of work together, grassroots. We found ourselves this year. So the next year will be even a stronger force when we go up to Frankfurt because we're going to be all on the same page. So that'll be a lot better. Your leaders in the community are your school board members. Hold them accountable. Your teachers that are teaching your children. Parents anymore, we have to, both parents have to work. That's just the state of our economy. But that doesn't mean you have to be disconnected from your children. I'm not saying take them out of public schools, but a lot of parents are looking for other alternatives for their children. And homeschooling is a big one that's up and coming. When I was faced with the decision to homeschool my child or not, because I'm a single parent, work full time, like there's just no way I can do it. And I didn't have enough information then. My son graduated high school last year. Fortunately, he was in a high school, even though they have CRT and DEI and SEL, they don't push it as hard as other schools do. And I think he graduated just in the nick of time. But homeschool nowadays, it's not an 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. ordeal.
Do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's much more conducive to the child and the family schedule than ever before.
I noticed we homeschooled our kids. We found out that 3 hours of instruction was more than enough.
Yeah.
I homeschool mine as well, and we do ours on our own schedule. So.
Yeah, and in Kentucky, we have what's called KEYS money, which gives kids money for college, and we're trying to get it passed to where homeschoolers can get a hold of that money as well. We spread awareness and understanding of the limited role of government. One of our Moms for Liberty t-shirts is "I don't co-parent with the government," which is our big thing. Government needs to stay out of our homes. They need to stay out of our schools. And sadly, a lot of the schools take these Title IX funds, and that's how they get all this money. But where's that money going? Is it going back into administration, the superintendents, the secretary to the superintendent, the secretary to the secretary to the secretary of the superintendent, and so on and so forth? So we really got to follow where the money's going. We oppose government overreach, and we stand together against intimidation tactics. I don't know if you've seen the news, but Kentucky legislative, when they were overturning the governor's veto for Senate Bill 150, the left showed up. They actually took 3 busloads of kids out of school for that rally at the Capitol.
Wasn't there some
How
arrested as
many
well?
of those, I'm sorry?
Was there some arrested as well?
Yes, they were arrested. But How many of those parents knew that their kids was going on a field trip to the Capitol for an LGBTQ rally?
Oh, wow.
So there's a lawsuit, they're trying to gather information so they could sue because
It's
they
happening.
use taxpayer money for these busloads from Louisville to travel to Frankfurt. And then, of course, it happened in Tennessee as well, and of course people were arrested there as well. But the left think that the louder we scream, the more temper tantrums we throw, we can get things done. And that's not, we're not gonna accept that. That's not tolerant. So. We promote liberty, the teaching and the principles of liberty in our homes and our community. We engage on key issues with our communities and elected leaders that are impacting our families. There's a lot of legislators up in Washington who don't know what's going on in their own districts. They don't know what's going on in their schools. And one of our co-founders, Tiffany Justice, was up in Washington, D.C. To give a speech on parental rights. And there was 2 senators from Florida that said, this isn't happening. You're just causing a commotion to scare other legislators. And one of them challenged her and she said, I bet you can't find 100 parents who have any complaints about what's going on in their schools. Don't ever give a mom a challenge, right, moms? Because we will show you up. So Tiffany, in 2 weeks' time, showed up with a manila envelope that was this full, all one-page letters from parents from around the country that said, this is a problem of parental rights being violated in our schools. And she submitted that to Congress. So yeah, don't ever challenge a mom. And then activate to public service. We want our members to run for school board, and we will help them do so. We also encourage our members to run for office, whether it be on a county level, city level, statewide level. My co-chair for my chapter is currently running for lieutenant governor of Kentucky. So she's been very busy. So I don't want to say I hope she loses because I need my co-chair back, but at the same time, I wish her all the best of luck because she'll be great at fighting for our education and our kids.
You're talking about Wesley?
Yeah.
Okay.
So our motto at Moms for Liberty is Esther 4:14. Perhaps you were born for a time as this. And we have to protect our children now. This is the fight of our generation. Every generation has some kind of fight. And I believe that this is our fight. You have to get involved. If you can, join a chapter or start a chapter. In Ohio, this is just one of our displays, but I always say we're turning on the lights one chapter at a time because each of those yellow dots is a chapter throughout the country. Ohio has 9 chapters. Don't remember all the counties. I know there's one in Medina, Wood County, Hamilton County. You have a Stark
Yes, we
County.
have to start, yeah.
Florida and Arizona.
But there's several, and you can just go to momsforliberty.org. I put my cards up there on the table that has not only just my information, but you can go to momsforliberty.org, find your own chapter, and then whenever you click, when you open this up, you find your county, click on it, and that will take you to the chapter's website, so you can join. If you don't have one and you want to join, or it's too far to drive, open up your own chapter. And this lady right here wants to open up one here. So it's easy to join. We meet once a month for chapter meetings and get the message out. Next Thursday is our chapter meeting, and we'll be talking about woke companies and how we can fight against them, because they're ultimately affecting our kids as well.
When Mirna started this chapter, she was just an individual, just in the community, speaking for her kids, seeing what was happening. And I'm telling you, this lady has worked her butt off and done some amazing things in our county. So that's why I promote her everywhere I go, pretty much.
I will say I ran for state representative and lost my race.
But
Because
you
were
want-
meant to do this.
But
Yes.
you won anyways.
Yeah, well, I didn't go into the race knowing I was going to lose. but had that feeling that I was gonna lose, because originally I was just there to bring up issues to the public, and then they threw in a third candidate, and of course you know the more candidates you have, the votes get split even more. But that's okay, you know, after I lost, I was down for a couple weeks, and then someone said, have you heard of Moms for Liberty? I think it's right up your alley, and I'm like, oh, it was like heaven sent. I'm like, this is what I was meant to do. So thank you all for having me. If you have any questions, please ask. Don't be afraid. I can answer just about anything. And then that binder that was going around, if you haven't got a chance to thumb through it.
So does your property tax in Kentucky pay for your public libraries?
Yes.
Yes.
So then, obviously, we should have a problem with the public libraries as well.
Absolutely.
If our property taxes, because I know
Yes.
they pay for them here, which every time I go to get a conservative book, they don't have it, but if you want to find some mumbo jumbo nonsense, they of course have that in the library. And I have found some inappropriate stuff in our library.
But how they're getting around that now in the state of Kentucky, and correct me if I'm wrong, they now have a section for it, where they just promote those books on a section.
Oh.
Well, here's what we do. We go and check them all out, so nobody can check them out for Gay Pride Month. We check them all out.
Yeah,
Like, you're
during,
not gonna see those for that month.
during the month of June, actually the end of May, because they put all the books out in a certain, you know, usually right at the front of the library, you know, celebrate Pride Month. I go in, I check out about, because you can usually get about 28 books. I check them all out, which I'm like, oh, God forgive me, you know. But then again, I have to read a lot of these books, and you know, the left says, you're just trying to erase LGBTQ books. No, because not a single one of the books I've challenged have been LGBTQ. They've all been pornography books. One was racist, written by the head guy of Black Lives Matter. His name is Ibram X. Kennedy, and he was retelling the story of American history from a BLM perspective, and it was just absolutely disgusting.
Do you have that book as a PDF?
Which?
That one.
Assassination Classroom? I
No,
do not.
No, that binder.
Oh, yes, the binder, yes, I have it.
'Cause if
So,
you-
yeah,
She'll
I
get
can
it all
send
to
that
me.
Because I can publish that
Yeah,
as a downloadable link on my blog.
yeah, you're welcome to do that.
Just send everything to me, and I'll just send it all over to Scott, and he can publish whatever.
Sounds good.
So,
Any other questions?
all right. Now, she can help start a chapter here in any county. I'm sure you're willing to help do that, correct? Yeah, so you have a,
On a side note, I was watching Newsmax this morning, and it said Riley Gaines, you know, the swimmer,
Yeah.
got beat by a guy.
Oh,
Yeah, she's filing a civil lawsuit.
good.
Yes,
So,
Good.
yeah.
and she's also suing the University of, I believe it was San Diego, where she was attacked. By, she was at a Turning Point USA conference, and they locked her in her room for several hours, demanded a ransom to let her out, and then once she got out, she was punched by a transgender several times. So she's not only suing the university, but and you know, rightfully so, because they are getting very, very violent. I don't know if you guys are on TikTok or not, but
No.
there was even a transgender man who threatened, literally made a threat, and it showed up on Newsmax this week. But he said, anyone who tries to stop me from using a woman's bathroom will not see the light of the day or something. It's like, I challenge any of you to try to stop me or a trans man from using the women's bathroom. And it's like, again, don't challenge us, because you are not gonna like it. Because if my child is in that bathroom,
That's why we're not going to the YMCA, because of that whole nonsense. I'm not going to have to expose my kids to
Yeah,
that.
Christian organization.
yeah. And if there's, you know, I'm sorry, if you look like a woman and you walk into a woman's bathroom and you're a man, as long as you don't look over the stall or under the stall, I mean, I'm not gonna care.
Or walk
'Cause
around naked. in front of other girls.
Yeah, that's a problem, you know.
Immediately or
But
later.
most of them,
Whichever.
or I shouldn't say most of them, the ones that are in their right mind, why would they want to be outed? You know, they want to be a woman. So why would you want to show your stuff? It's the perverts that are doing it. And they're making it worse for everybody else.
That's what it used to be, that transgender people just wanted to blend in.
Right.
They didn't want to bother anyone, they wanted to go to the restroom, use the restroom and leave. There was no issue.
Yeah. So. But thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
I do work night shift, so I won't stay for the entire meeting. I have to get home and get ready for work.
And some of you guys, I go to Myrna's stuff because my son is biracial. And Myrna's heard this story before. He went to the Bellevue School Districts. 2 teachers and a principal told my son to choose his race. So he came home and said, Mom, who am I going to love? Am I going to love my white mom or my black dad? So he was very conflicted and very upset to where they started harassing him also because we were Trump supporters. We were invited to Trump's inauguration. So they started targeting him in our school district. Then my son would every morning make himself throw up so he didn't have to go to school because his nerves were just shot. So I started homeschooling my son for that reason, and that's one of the reasons I got involved with Mirna and wanted to bring her here, because we need to start making Ohio know this is really happening to our kids. Like, my son to this day is still not the same kid he used to be in 6th and 7th grade because of, and they pulled him out in the hallway and said, if you go home and tell your mom, there's going to be consequences. Well, there was. I sued the school and won.
Yeah.
So yeah, so now my son is homeschooled. He has a 3.7 GPA to where he was failing with all F's. So if you think that, you know, it's not happening, it is. I mean, and our kids are getting the worst end of it. So I'm going to get my presentation set up and we'll start there.
Even
Sorry?
if they were to stay home and literally learn nothing, maybe just reading, writing, and math like normal, they
My
at
son
least
is-
wouldn't be learning all the other smut that's out there. And parents that doubt themselves, I tell them over and over, because I've homeschooled all 3 of my kids, and both my kids are, the 2 oldest are in college now with really good grades, and they haven't had a problem, because everybody says if people, you know, kids are homeschooled, they're gonna have a problem with everything. No, the only thing that they have a problem with is like the drag show that they just did at Wright State.
Yep, they
couple
just did one down
Saturdays
by our way too.
Yeah, or letting, you know.
And they had children's in there and they were nude.
Oh, no.
Totally, yeah, nude. Like the kid in the video looked like they were maybe 10.
Oh my goodness.
They were nude doing these drag shows.
See, and that's why I keep telling people, even like an acquaintance of mine, she taught in the school system for 12 years, and she's constantly, every day, pull your kids out of school, pull your kids out of school. Like, they are better off just being home, I don't know, build a garden, honestly, as opposed to being in those schools, because they are not teaching them anything worth
My
having.
son is required to be at the kitchen table at 6:30 a.m. to do Bible, number 1. If he chooses not to do Bible that day, he doesn't do anything else. That's how we start our day. Secondly, he's learning how to cursive write. They don't teach that in school because our Constitution is in cursive. He could not read it. So he's learning the correct math, not some math that he's got to do 3 problems to get 1 answer. He does the math when I grew up, you do it the right way. You get 1 answer. You know, we're tired of this long drawn out process. Let's teach our kids, let's not dumb them down. He learns the correct history with what I teach him. I'm very conservative, I'll tell you that. But he's gonna learn history repeats
Well,
itself.
they're not putting God in the schools, and that's for sure.
Right.
It is godless and completely lawless.
Correct.
They do not care in any way, shape, or form. And finally, my mother was, she was one of the ones I was like, oh, that's not happening.
Oh, it is.
It is. Even back in
Washington.
2007, though, because when I went to put my, we moved to one state, it was Massachusetts, and the school system, the lady there, she says, well, what school are you looking at? And I said, this is a weird question. And she said, well, they'll actually start teaching in kindergarten. They'll have mommy and mommy books, daddy and daddy books. And I'm thinking, this is what they're teaching the kids in kindergarten? That was back in 2007. So I'm
Right.
sitting here thinking, this stuff's been going on for, and then that's what, one of my points was why I homeschooled, was because of things like that.
Right.
Because then I sat there and I thought, you're going to learn the things completely take their innocence away, wearing stuff that they should never.
I'm telling you, my kid is not the same kid from 6th and 7th grade. My kid was literally their best basketball player, and they threw him away because they didn't like what his family stood for. Threw him away. Sit him in a corner and literally threw him away. Attacked him every day to where the kid could not even go to school without throwing up. He'd call if I would make him go to school. I got sent a truancy letter saying if your kid doesn't show up, we're holding you responsible. He'd call me every day from the nurse, Mom, I'm sick, I need to come home. I'm not going to keep my kid in that environment. No matter what you do, pay attention to your kids. They will tell you how they're feeling. And Mirna can also tell you, Washington just passed a law. You want to explain that a little bit more too?
Let me get my head wrapped around Washington.
The transgender, they can come in and take your kids out of school.
Oh, yes.
yes.
CPS has a big thing right now where they think that the kids don't belong to you. And if a child, you know how most kids will say, oh my God, my mom's going to kill me because I got a D in math. They're now taking that to the next level and saying, oh, your mom's going to kill you because, you know, over a math test, but what happens when they find out that you're gay? And so we have to protect you, so we're going to take you out of the home. And the parents don't even know. That's why a lot of these bills that are getting passed in all of our states are so important for parental rights.
Yeah, but that one also includes them going ahead and getting their little hormone things like that to change.
Yes. And hormone blockers, puberty blockers.
But now they're claiming that state to be a safe haven. That means if a child runs away from here, 10 years old, ends up in Washington, you're not getting your kid back.
No, they actually have these, they're not really homeless shelters, but in a way they are, where they're taking kids and taking them away from parents so that they can have those hormone blockers because they fear for their lives. And that's really not the
I think that's part of it too.
Biden?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's, you know, if you think it's not happening, pay so much attention to your kids. Like, I felt horrible when I started realizing my son was afraid to come home and tell me because adults were threatening him. And then I started realizing, he said, Mom, they told me if I come home and tell you, there'd be consequences.